Hello everyone. So this lecture is about lipoproteins, and in this I will mainly talk about classification of lipoproteins, properties and functions of lipoproteins, and some lipid disorders. So let's begin. So you all might be knowing that lipids which are present in our body, they fall into these categories. So there are 5 categories, and the first one is fatty acids and triacylglycerols, and triacylglycerol is also called triglycerides. Then we have glycerophospholipids and sphingolipids, then eicosanoids, and you might have heard about prostaglandins are eicosanoids only. Then we have cholesterol, bile salts, and steroid hormones. And bile salts and steroid hormones, they are basically derived from cholesterol. And then we have fat soluble vitamins. So as vitamin A, D, K, these are fat soluble vitamins. So these lipid molecules, most of the lipid molecules are synthesized within our body, and some of the lipid molecules we get from our diet also. So since lipids are insoluble in water, their transportation in the body is very difficult. So lipids being insoluble, they need specialized vehicles for their transportation within the body, and these specialized vehicles are called lipoproteins. So lipoproteins are small particles used for transportation of lipids within the body. So as the name reflects, lipoproteins are made up of lipids and proteins. So the broad composition of lipoproteins is cholesterol, phospholipids, and cholesterol. Lipoproteins have cholesterol in free form and in esterified form, then phospholipids, then triacylglycerols, and then proteins. And the proteins which are present in lipoproteins are called apolipoproteins. So these are the 4 main components of lipoproteins. So we have 4 different lipoproteins present in our body, 4 kinds of lipoproteins, and these are mainly chylomicrons, VLDL is very low density lipoprotein, then low density lipoprotein, and then high density lipoprotein. So these are 4 different kinds of lipoproteins which are present in our body, and lipoproteins, they can be separated using ultracentrifugation, and they are separated based on their densities. So chylomicrons have the lowest density, that is less than 1.006, and HDL has the highest density, having density between 1.063 to 1.2 grams per ml. So this table shows different compositions of these different lipoproteins. And if you look at chylomicrons, so chylomicrons, they have 2% proteins, 9% phospholipids, 1% free cholesterol, 3% cholesterol esters, and 85% triglycerols or triglycerides. So if you see, triglycerides are present at very high concentration in chylomicrons. So chylomicrons, they mainly carry triglycerols in the body. So if you look at VLDL, that is very low density lipoproteins, they have 10% proteins, 18% phospholipids, 7% free cholesterol, and 12% cholesterol esters, and 50% triglycerides. So even VLDL also carry high concentration of triglycerols. So VLDL, they are also mainly carriers of triglycerides in the body. Then we have LDL. LDL have 23% proteins, 20% phospholipids, 8% free cholesterol, 37% cholesterol esters, and 10% triglycerides. So LDL is the main carrier of cholesterol in the body, as total of 45% of cholesterol is there in LDL lipoproteins. So HDL have highest protein concentration. It has 55% of protein, then 24% phospholipids, then 2% free cholesterol, then 15% cholesterol esters, and then only 4% of triglycerides. So HDL is known to carry cholesterol molecules within the body from peripheral tissues to the liver. So that we'll see further. So these are four, and there is one more lipoprotein which is IDL, which is intermediary density lipoproteins, which is between VLDL and LDL. So this table is very important. Please go through this and memorize the composition. So this is a structure of one of the lipoproteins, and that is LDL, low density lipoprotein, and these are the images of electron microscopic images of 4 different lipoproteins. So let us first have a look on the structure of LDL molecule. So this low density lipoprotein, that is composed of only single polypeptide chain, that is ApoB100, and there are the outer shell is composed of a phospholipid monolayer, and as you know that phospholipids, they have hydrophilic as well as a hydrophobic group. So hydrophilic group of phospholipids, they made outer shell of the lipoproteins, and hydrophobic group is there inside towards the core. And also they have free cholesterol, unesterified cholesterol molecules, and unesterified or free cholesterol molecules, they have a hydrophilic as well as a hydrophobic group. Okay, so unesterified or free cholesterol, they have a hydroxyl group which is hydrophilic, and that is present towards the outside, and the hydrophobic group is there inside. So the outer shell of the low density lipoproteins, they are made up of phospholipid monolayer and unesterified cholesterol molecules, and the inner core of the low density lipoproteins, they are composed of mainly cholesterol esters. They are hydrophobic, and then some triglycerides are also there inside the core. So if you look at the composition as such, so lipoproteins, they are one particle of the low density lipoprotein contain a core of about 1500 molecules of cholesterol esters surrounded by a shell composed of about 500 more molecules of cholesterol and 800 molecules of phospholipids, and there is only one molecule of ApoB100. So LDL is the lipoprotein which has only one molecule of apolipoprotein, that is ApoB100. Okay, and if you look at the electron microscopic images of these 4 lipoproteins, so you see that chylomicrons, they have a lowest density but their size is large. So chylomicrons are large particles with low density. If you look at VLDL, they are smaller particles, smaller in size as compared to chylomicrons, and the density is little higher than the chylomicrons. If you look at LDL molecules, their size is even smaller than VLDL and their density is larger than VLDL. If you look at HDL molecules, they are very small particles but their density is higher. So higher the density, smaller the size, and here also the size is large in chylomicrons, the density is very low. So if you look at this table once again, with the increasing concentration of proteins, the density of lipoproteins increases. As you see that chylomicrons, they have only 2% proteins, they have the lowest density, and HDL molecules, they have the highest protein concentration and thus the highest density. So with the increasing concentration of protein, the density of lipoproteins increase. So it is, I think, a general phenomena that lipids, they have less density, so that's why they float on the liquid surface, and it is the presence of protein which gives weight to these particles. So let's move further. So let's talk about the functional properties of all major classes of lipoproteins, and this table shows the functional properties of different lipoproteins. And let's begin with chylomicrons. So chylomicrons, these are produced in intestinal epithelial cells from dietary fat, and these carry triglycerides in the blood. So chylomicrons carry the dietary triglycerides in the blood. That means triglycerides which are present in the diet. Chylomicrons, they transport those triglycerides in the blood. Then comes VLDL, very low density lipoproteins. So these lipoproteins, these are produced in liver mainly from the dietary carbohydrates, and these carry triglycerides in the blood like chylomicrons. So VLDL also carry triglycerides in the blood like chylomicron, but these carry triglycerides which are synthesized in the liver from the dietary carbohydrates. So all of you must be knowing that carbohydrates are lipogenic. Okay, carbohydrates are lipogenic. That means carbohydrates, they can be converted into fats in our body. So glucose, which is a primary source of energy for us, it is a carbohydrate and it is a primary source of energy for all of us. So glucose molecules can be directly burned for production of energy, and they are also converted into triglycerides in our body. Okay, so VLDL carry triglycerides which are synthesized from glucose in the liver after having diet, after eating food, okay, from dietary carbohydrates. Then comes IDL. IDL is intermediate density lipoproteins. So IDL, they are produced in blood. These are remnant of VLDL after triglycerides digestion. So VLDL, they carry triglycerides for transportation. So when they lose their, or when they deliver triglycerides, after loss of triglycerides, remnant of VLDL are formed, and these remnant of VLDL are intermediate density lipoproteins. So ideal lipoproteins, these are endocytosed by liver or converted into LDL. So some ideal lipoproteins, these are endocytosed by liver, and some are converted into LDL. So LDL is low density lipoprotein, and these are produced in blood, and these are remnant of IDL after losing some more triglycerides. Okay, so when IDL lose more triglycerols or triglycerides, they become LDL. So LDL is the end product of VLDL basically. Okay, so the IDL, these are the intermediary form between VLDL and LDL, and LDL is the end product of VLDL. So LDL contains high concentration of cholesterol and cholesterol esters, because most of the triglycerides, they are delivered or transported to the peripheral tissues. LDL carry high concentration of cholesterol and cholesterol esters, free cholesterol and cholesterol esters. So LDL lipoproteins, these are endocytosed by liver and peripheral tissues. So LDL, they are known to be carriers of cholesterol molecules in the body. Then comes HDL. HDL is high density lipoproteins, and these are produced in liver and intestine, and HDL exchanges proteins and lipids with other lipoproteins. So as I've already told you before, that HDL molecules or HDL lipoproteins, they have high concentration of lipids, proteins in them. 55% of proteins are there in HDL. So HDL, they exchange their proteins with Proteins and lipids, they carry with other lipoproteins and they function in the return of cholesterol from peripheral tissues to the liver. So HDL functions in return of cholesterol from peripheral tissues to the liver. So HDL is known as a good cholesterol because it carries cholesterol from peripheral tissues to the liver, and in the liver cholesterol is further metabolized. Cholesterol is converted into bile salts in the liver. So that is why HDL is known as good cholesterol, and whereas LDL is known as bad cholesterol because it carries cholesterol to the other to the peripheral tissues. So, and also LDL is associated with the heart disease. It is associated with the development of atherosclerosis. So let's move further. So this figure shows an overview of triglyceride metabolism in the fed state. So when we eat food which is rich in triglycerides, so digestion of triglycerides take place mainly in the small intestine. In the small intestine, with pancreatic lipases, triglycerides are degraded into 2-monosylglycerol and fatty acids. So these degradation products of triglycerides are then diffused to the intestinal epithelial cells, and within them triglycerides are reconstituted. These are triglycerides are reformed from the degradation products, and these triglycerides are then packed into chylomicrons and released into blood through lymph. So chylomicrons are released first in the lymph, through lymph they move to the blood. In the blood so through the blood, chylomicrons, they deliver triglycerides to the peripheral tissues like muscle, adipose, and in case of lactating mothers, to the mammary glands. Okay, so the capillaries present in the tissues, they have lipoprotein lipase enzyme lining the capillary wall, and these lipoprotein lipases, they again degrade triglycerides into 2-monosylglycerol and fatty acids, and then these are taken up by the peripheral cells. Likewise, in the liver, the glucose, extra glucose which comes from the diet, extra glucose molecules are converted into triglycerides within the liver, and these are packed into VLDL lipoproteins, and then the VLDL lipoproteins are released in the blood, and through the blood, the triglyceride content of the VLDL level, they are then delivered to the peripheral tissues such as muscle, adipose, as well as mammary glands. So this was an overview of triglyceride metabolism in the fed state. Let's move further. So one more thing I would like to add in here is that the triglycerides which are carried by chylomicrons and VLDL molecules, these triglycerides, they are degraded by lipoprotein lipases which are present on the walls of capillaries present in the peripheral tissues. So these lipases, they degrade triglycerides into 3 fatty acids and glycerol moiety, 1 glycerol molecule. So the free fatty acids are then taken up by the peripheral tissues, and the glycerol moiety which is released goes to the liver for further metabolism. So the fate of fatty acids in the muscle is that the fatty acids, they undergo oxidation for production of energy, and in the adipose tissue the fatty acids they join glycerol moiety within the adipose tissue to form triglycerides again, and then these are stored. And in the mammary glands and the lactating mothers, the triglycerides are formed, and that becomes part of the milk to be fed to the baby. So this was it. Now let's move further. So this figure shows an overall overview of lipoproteins and lipid transport in the body. So if you look at chylomicrons, these are synthesized in the intestinal cells and carry dietary triglycerides. And these chylomicrons, they deliver free fatty acids to the mammary gland, muscle tissue or adipose tissue, forming a chylomicron remnant. These chylomicron remnants, they are devoid of their triglyceride content, but they have protein and cholesterol and phospholipids in them. These remnants, they move to the liver and they further undergo metabolism. About VLDL lipoproteins, they carry endogenous triglycerides and cholesterol molecules. These are endogenous, that means these are synthesized in the liver. So these VLDL lipoproteins, they also carry triglycerides and deliver them to the mammary tissue, muscle and adipose tissue, forming VLDL remnants. So VLDL remnant, they are devoid of their triglyceride content as well as some apolipoproteins. So these remnant called ideal, some of the ideal lipoproteins, they move to the liver for further metabolism, and some are converted into LDL. That means some ideal lipoproteins, they lose some more triglycerides and lose some more apolipoproteins to form LDL lipoproteins. So LDL lipoproteins, they are rich in their cholesterol content, so they deliver cholesterol to the extrahepatic tissues, and then after delivering, they move to the liver for further metabolism. So about HDL lipoproteins, so being good lipoproteins, HDL precursors are formed within liver and intestine. So HDL, these are nascent HDL molecules. These are synthesized in liver and intestine, and being a good cholesterol, they carry extra cholesterol which is present in the extrahepatic tissues to the liver for further metabolism, and this transportation is called reverse cholesterol transportation, because HDL molecule, they carry extra cholesterol which are present in the extrahepatic tissues to the liver for metabolism, and in the liver cholesterol molecules, they are metabolized or they are converted into bile salts, and they have some other fates also. So this was about the lipoproteins and lipid transport. Now this figure shows blood plasma after fasting and blood plasma after meal. So if you see blood plasma after fasting, is there is clear plasma is clear, and after meal, if you look at the plasma is milky, has a milky appearance, and it looks turbid, and it is because of the chylomicrons present in the blood carrying dietary lipids. So this is it. Let's move further. So one more thing I would like to discuss here is that these lipoproteins, when they are taken up by the cells, they are taken up by receptor mediated endocytosis. So be it a chylomicron remnant or a VLDL remnant or LDL remnant, which are taken up by the hepatocytes, or LDL lipoproteins which carry cholesterol to the peripheral tissues, they are all taken up by their respective cells via a receptor mediated endocytosis. So this is one example where LDL particle LDL particle is taken up by the extrahepatic cells via receptor mediated endocytosis. So let's have a look on this figure. Let's see. So these LDL particles, they are taken up by the cells of the extrahepatic tissues via receptor mediated endocytosis, and it is the ApoB100 protein which is present in the LDL particle, and LDL particle has only one apolipoprotein, that is ApoB100, and this ApoB100 recognizes the receptors which are present on the cells, and with the help of this the LDL particle is endocytosed. Okay, so the receptor binds to the ApoB100 which is present on the LDL particle, and because of this binding, the LDL particle is endocytosed inside, and endosome is formed. So the lysosomes which are present in the cytoplasm, they fuse with the endosome, and the receptors are then escaped, and then they are reused for another round of LDL particle uptake. So receptors are reused, and the lipoproteins present in the endosome then fuses with the lysosome, and within this the lipoprotein undergo degradation. So because lysosome contains enzymes which degrade lipids present in lipids and protein content of the lipoproteins. So the ApoB100 protein is degraded into amino acids, and triglyceride and phospholipid content is degraded into fatty acids, and cholesterol esters which are present in the core of the lipoprotein, they are degraded into free cholesterol, and they are released into the cytoplasm. So this was about receptor mediated endocytosis of LDL lipoprotein. But the other other lipoproteins like chylomicron remnant, VLDL remnant, and LDL remnant, they are also taken up by the hepatocytes with receptor mediated endocytosis. So one more important thing, that some people, they have a genetic defect of the LDL receptors. LDL receptors are not properly formed in some people. So because of that, their LDL level in their blood is quite high, and these people are at risk for development of heart disease and stroke. Now let's have a look on the different kinds of apolipoproteins present in human plasma lipoproteins. So there are different lipoproteins present in apolipoproteins, different apolipoproteins present in different lipoproteins. So as I told you that LDL lipoprotein carries only one apolipoprotein, that is ApoB100, and likewise HDL carry number of apolipoproteins, chylomicrons carry number of different lipoproteins, and VLDL also carry different lipoproteins. So some of the apolipoproteins, they are common in different lipoproteins. So basically, what is the function of apolipoproteins in lipoproteins? So I have highlighted these lines for you. This is from Leringer, and as you can read, the apolipoprotein component of lipoproteins act as signals targeting lipoproteins to specific tissues or activating enzymes that act on the lipoproteins. So as I told you, receptor mediated endocytosis of LDL lipoproteins, and the protein part of the LDL receptor, LDL lipoprotein, that is ApoB100, that helps in receptor mediated endocytosis of the lipoprotein. So the apolipoprotein, they carry as signals targeting lipoproteins to specific tissues. Also these apolipoproteins, they activate enzymes that act on the lipoproteins, that helps in releasing of the lipid content that they carry. For example, the apolipoproteins, they in chylomicrons and in VLDL, they activate the lipoprotein lipase enzyme which are present on the walls of the capillaries of the peripheral tissues, and so that they carry out degradation of the triglycerides present in them. So basically, the protein content of the lipoproteins, they act as signals for targeting lipoproteins to specific tissues, and they also activate enzymes. Now let's move on to lipid disorders. And in lipid disorders we have two conditions, hyperlipidemia and hypolipidemia. So in hyperlipidemia is high levels of lipids in blood, and this is very common these days. And hypolipidemia, on the contrary, is a rare condition. Hypolipidemia is low levels of lipids in blood. So hyperlipidemia is a problem because it is associated with heart disease and stroke. And hyperlipidemia, they can be primary or secondary disorder. So primary causes of hyperlipidemia arise from the gene defect of lipoprotein or lipoprotein receptors. So if there is a genetic defect in the lipoprotein or lipoprotein receptors, then the person will have primary hyperlipidemia. If the reasons are secondary, then secondary lipidemia. So now which type of lipid is elevated is important in investigation of hyperlipidemia, and there are three groups recognized. One is hypercholesterolemia. Hypercholesterolemia is high blood cholesterol levels with little elevated triglycerides. Hypertriglyceridemia is high triglyceride levels with little elevated cholesterol, and there is a combined condition where combined hyperlipidemia is there. That means both cholesterol and triglyceride levels are elevated. So if you look at the classification, WHO classification of primary hyperlipidemia, which is based on Fredrickson classification, it is given in this table, and it is a very easy classification. So you have, according to this classification, we have 6 different types of hyperlipoproteinemia, and the type 1 hyperproteinemia, and these are all primary hyperlipidemia. That means due to the genetic defect, these conditions are there due to the genetic defect of lipoproteins and lipoprotein receptors. So in type 1 lipoproteinemia, it is called hyperchylomicronemia because the chylomicron content levels in the blood are high, and because chylomicrons carry triglycerides, so it is the triglyceride levels which are high in the blood. So if you see type 2A hyperlipidemia, it is called familial hypercholesterolemia, and it is due to increased LDL level and cholesterol level is high in the blood. Then type 2B, which is familial combined hypercholesterolemia, and in this levels of both LDL and VLDL are high. So levels of both cholesterol and triglycerides are high in this condition. So then we have type 3, which is dysbeta-proteinemia, and here ideal levels are high, and here triglycerides and cholesterol content is high. Then type 5, which is called familial hypertriglyceridemia, and here VLDL levels are high, here triglyceride levels are high because VLDL carry more triglycerides. In type 5 hyperlipidemia, familial lipase deficiency, familial lipoprotein lipase deficiency is there, and because of this VLDL and chylomicron levels are high in the blood, and so triglyceride and cholesterol levels are high. So if you look at familial lipoprotein lipase deficiency, so lipoprotein lipase, I told you that lipoprotein lipases are there on the walls of the capillaries present in the adipose tissue, muscle tissue and mammary glands. So lipoprotein lipases, what they do, they carry out degradation of the triglyceride content of the VLDL and chylomicrons. So if there is deficiency of lipoprotein lipase, that means VLDL and chylomicrons, the triglycerides which are there in VLDL and chylomicrons will not undergo degradation, and they will not be metabolized, and their level in the blood would increase, and so the level of triglyceride and cholesterol in the blood would increase. So this is these are all 5 different types of primary hyperlipidemia, and Then the secondary reason for hyperlipidemia is that it is associated with hypothyroidism. People having hypothyroidism, they have high lipid content in their blood, and people having nephrotic syndrome, people who drink alcoholism, who has a problem of alcoholism, and people having diabetes mellitus. In all these conditions also, the levels of lipoproteins in blood increases. So let's move further. So hypolipidemia, which is a rare condition, it is associated with deficiencies of particular apolipoprotein. For example, in a Tangier disease, in this deficiency of ApoA1 results in low levels of HDL. HDL has ApoA1, and when there is deficiency of ApoA1, HDL levels in blood are low, and this happens in Tangier disease. And hypolipidemia is also seen in cases of severe malnutrition and malabsorption, which is associated with some kind of liver diseases. So in some kind of liver diseases also, hypolipidemia may occur. So this is it. Then now if you look at this image, this man has some marks around his eyes. So these marks which are around his eyes, these marks are called xanthelasma. So xanthelasma is associated with familial hyperlipidemia. In fact, familial hypercholesterolemia, because these marks are deposition of cholesterol in the skin around the eyes. So these marks are formed because of the deposition of high cholesterol around the eye. So so it is xanthelasma is associated with the primary hyperlipidemia. So people having a genetic defect of say LDL receptors, so in them their cholesterol content of the blood is high, and because of the high cholesterol in the blood, these high cholesterol molecules are deposited around the eyes. So generally these people have high LDL levels but low HDL levels. So if you look someone with these kind of marks around their eyes, his or her eyes, you can say that the person has high cholesterol content in his blood. So the problem with these marks is that, xanthelasma is that, once these are formed, they are never reduced. Even if the blood levels of the LDL and cholesterol levels, they go down, even then marks remain, and marks are only surgically removed if one wants to get them removed. So now let's see diagnosis of the hyperlipidemia. So for investigation of hyperlipidemia, 10 to 12 hours fasting blood sample is required, and lipid profile is done for the investigation of parameters such as cholesterol, triglycerides, LDL, HDL, and cholesterol to HDL ratio. So now let's see atherosclerosis. So the lecture would be incomplete without a discussion of atherosclerosis. It is very important because atherosclerosis is associated with the hyperlipidemia, and it is associated with the development of heart disease and stroke. So in atherosclerosis, plaque is formed inside the arteries, narrowing down the lumen of the arteries. So the plaque is formed by the accumulation of lipid, calcium, and fibrous deposits in the lining of the artery, and this deposition leads to the narrowing down of the lumen of the artery, and thus blood flow through the artery gradually diminishes, and this result into eventual infarction. Infarction is obstruction of the blood supply to the tissue, and due to this the tissue gets damaged. So atherosclerosis can lead to heart attack, stroke, and even death. So it is see, atherosclerosis is a slow process, and it happens with aging. with aging, it is a natural tendency of accumulation of or formation of plaque inside the arteries, but due to the genetic defects or due to some secondary reasons, due to lifestyle problems, this process of formation of plaque is accelerated. So it is said that if a person of more than 40 years of age, if the person gets his angioscopy done, he will find some kind of obstruction in the artery, some plaque formation is there, and in a person of 40 years of age, say 20 to 30% to 40% of plaque is formed, and due to hyperlipidemia, the formation of plaque formation is accelerated in the individuals. So I hope this is clear to you, all of you. If there is some problem, some confusion, you may ask me by writing on the comment box, or by writing on the Google Classroom that we have, and in the WhatsApp group also. So this is it for today. Goodbye.